Guys, welcome back to the shop on this cool winter day. It's about 9 days before Christmas, but today we're going to talk about V-band clamps. We're going to talk about good ones versus bad ones, cheap versus expensive ones. We're going to talk about how to install them and how to keep them from warping when you do that. Let's check it out right now. Okay guys, so we are living in a time where things that weren't previously available to us are now available to us. There was a time when this kind of stuff was strictly kind of reserved for the aerospace industry, and that's where this stuff came from. You could find it on airplanes and things that travel into atmosphere and things like that. But now we're putting this crap on our car, which is, in my opinion, just absolutely cool. So we live in some cool times, and with all these options you have to be aware of the different quality. So there's a lot of different V-bands out there, and there's a lot of variation in the quality. Now the majority of these are probably going to be made overseas. The options that I have today are all made overseas, and say what you will about parts that come from overseas, but number one, they're getting a lot better, and number two, the fact that they're coming from overseas is what makes it accessible to guys like you and me. Previously, if you were to pick up like a V-band clamp that was made in the States, I mean, this might be a $50 to $100 assembly, maybe even more. But now they can be had for as little as 20 bucks. This first V-band clamp here that I have that I'm going to show you, it was purchased for about that amount, about $25. And there are some variations between these two. Now, full disclosure, I was sent these V-bands by Evil Energy, and it was actually at my request. They didn't reach out to me. Well, they saw another one of my videos, and we started talking and conversing, and they agreed to send these to me. But the reason I was really interested in Evil Energy is because of the design that they have in their V-bands. Their overall quality and material usage is better, and we're going to get into that right now. But first, let me show you the first set that I have, and these are not terrible by any imagination. They're the better. I'll call them the better of the cheap ones. So let's get into this, and I'm going to bring you in a little bit closer and show you what the cheaper option looks like here. Okay, so V-band clamp. We've talked about this previously. If you want to watch the other video, I will link it up top. Go ahead and hit that up. That's the video I made where I actually weld this initial V-band clamp that I purchased some years ago onto this set of shorty Hedman headers. I've since decided to go a different route with my car, and that's why these are not going to be on there, and I'm moving over to these. So anyways, V-bands, again, an outer band and two inner pieces. Now when you get these, there are options, like I was stating earlier. This one has a received or a machined female received end on this side and a male on this side. So let's see if you can see that here. So there's it jumps out here, and it can be received by the inner ring or groove on this end. And these two fit together real nice. There are V-bands that do not have this option, that totally rely on the outside contour, the outside dimension here to hold these clamps together. I do not recommend those. I'm sure some guys have had great luck with them. I don't recommend them. So they fit together nice and tight like this, and then the outer ring holds them together. One of the major concerns when working with V-band clamps is warpage. When you weld your V-band clamp to your exhaust tubing or your header or whatever it is, you need to be very controlled with the heat. Use only the amount of heat that you need to penetrate the base material, and no more. So when I welded this to keep it from moving, I did a couple spots on the inside and then stitch welded the outside, kept it cool. I still did have some warping on this, and I can show you that. We can go over to, I have a little steel surface plate over here. We can go over to that and take a look. Actually, let's do that right now. Let's cut to that. Okay, so we're over on a plate here that's fairly flat, and I've got a little light behind it, and here's a header standing up on it. And I'm going to bring this camera down, and you're going to be able to see where the light is sneaking underneath the header. There it is. You see that? I've got full contact on the right and about 2/3 on the left side, but all the way to the left I see some light, and right in the middle I see some light. So I did get some warpage on this. Let's take it back over to the other bench. Now with that warpage, some people may wonder, hey, is that going to leak? Maybe, but probably not, and it definitely doesn't have to. So let me show you what I would do if it did leak. My first step on this would be to do nothing, because that is so minimal. I would probably put it together and rely on this inner machined lip to seal it up. But if it did leak, I'd pull the header back off, and let me show you what I do to get it sealed up. This machine right here can fix many wrongs. So what I would do, if this thing did leak, I would get it as flat as I could and just give it a quick dusting right over a belt sander or a disc sander to make it flat. That's what I would do, and I'm positive that that would fix it if you did have any leaks. But again, the best way to keep it from leaking is really prevention, is to take your time and go slow. And you can see, even though I did that, I still got a little bit of warpage. But honestly, in my opinion, that's not bad. That's probably not going to leak. Okay guys, what I'd like to do now is take a few minutes and kind of compare and contrast the old Vband clamps I have that I purchased off Amazon and the new Evil Energy Vband clamps. We're going to look at build quality and material usage and like material thickness and things of that nature. So let's check that out right now. Okay guys, first thing I want to do is kind of look at the material usage between the two. So as stated, when I purchased them, the inner V-band part is supposed to be mild steel, so we'll see if it attracts a magnet, and it definitely does, as do the old ones. Okay, so that checks out. Mild steel innards and inners, inners. And let's see, we'll check some thickness here. We're looking at about 85 thousandths on the big end. It is 302, and we'll measure this one out. 302 and 85. So that's about the same. What about thickness this way? Here's the old one, is right at about, looks like 610 and 610. Okay, so matched up, these are relatively the same dimensionally. As far as quality of like fit and finish, the Evil brand is definitely cleaner. If I bring it in here, let's see if you guys can see this. There are machine marks in the other one, and in the Evil Energy, there are no machine marks. The surface is much smoother. There's been more attention to detail in the finish of this particular part as opposed to the cheaper V-band. Now, as far as the clamp itself goes, let's see. We're working with about 45 thousandths on the outer band. That's the same there. And that inner piece is about 70. Let's see what this one is. That's about what I expected. Okay, so the band materials, let's see if it takes a magnet. It does not take a magnet. So as prescribed, stainless steel outers. What about the inside? Stainless innards. Inners. And I suspect that these bolts would be not stainless, and they're not. Okay, so the bolts and the hardware up top on here are not stainless. That's just mild steel. They're taking a magnet. And this clamp is stainless. Okay, so again, all things kind of equal out between the cheaper brand and the Evil Energy brand, or the budget and Evil Energy. I shouldn't say that. The Evil Energy bands are pretty affordable. I believe these are like 25 bucks a piece, so they're not outrageous at all. They're pretty well priced. But again, the real way that the Evil Energy stuff shines is in the fit and the finish. You can see I don't know if it comes through on the camera or not, but the overall finish of the Evil Energy brand is just better. I don't know if they had like a tumble polish or what, but all the edges on the Evil Energy brand are broken. And what I mean by that is there's no sharp edges. Like when you're making a part, you want to break the edges of a machined surface so it doesn't have a sharp edges. All the edges on the Evil Energy brand are really nice. And again, the one thing that really sets it apart is that toggle, that quick release toggle. So overall, I would say that the Evil Energy brand is a nicer part. Okay guys, next thing we're going to do is we're going to get over to the welding table and we're going to weld these things up. I'm going to show you a technique that I use to keep these things flat, and it's going to involve making a fixture heat sink jig. I know a lot of people aren't going to have access to that, but there are other things that you can do to keep these things flat. But we're going to talk about that now. Okay guys, this is right here the tip, or the largest tip or takeaway I can give to making this process successful and minimizing the warpage on your V-band. This is simply nothing more than a hunk of aluminum that I'm using as a heat sink. So the purpose of this piece of aluminum is just to absorb heat. That's why it's clamped down here. Let me take this off real quick and show you what I'm working with here. So this is just a hunk of aluminum, and if you look here, there's a shallow groove in here that matches the inside or matches the outside and inside diameter of these V-bands, and it just sits in there nice. And then I clamp it down with these table clamps here. So the purpose of this again is just to suck up heat. Now you do not need this to make this process successful. If you have a welding table or some other large chunk of steel, or preferably aluminum or some kind of alloy that absorbs heat at an easier, faster rate, that's probably going to be more beneficial to you than steel. So if you can source a piece of aluminum or something like that, I would highly recommend that. You're going to get warpage when you pour a bunch of heat into this thing and the heat has nowhere to go. So then the heat sits in the clamp and then it contorts and bends and twists as it heats up and cools at different rates around the part. So this is going to take a lot of that heat and smoothly even it out. And also, I'm going to leave it in this setup until it cools off, and that's really going to minimize my warpage. So now I'm going to bring you in, talk a little bit more about my setup here, and we'll get to the welding. Okay guys, we're over here at my welding table. I've got my jig set up over here, and what I'm going to do now is kind of go through the process real quick about how I set up to weld these things. Anyone that knows how to weld knows that the #1 key to a successful weld and a good looking weld is being comfortable. So I'm going to show you how I set this up so I can be comfortable and weld this. So the first thing I like to do when I know I'm going to weld something, especially if it's fixtured like this or a place that's not going to move, I keep these blocks around to kind of, so I can prop up my work hands, and that way I can have the torch just at like the same height as what I'm welding. And sometimes I keep these 4x4 or these 1x, and I'll just stack them up to get what I want. And this looks good to me, so let me see what one of them looks like. Yeah, one's too low. So this is good for me. So what I'll do is I'll use these two 1x here and stack them up, and then it puts my torch at just the right angle here. And so I'm going to weld these now, and I'll bring you guys in tighter so you can see that process. right, guys. Oh, I missed a spot. I was gonna say, all right, guys, this is welded. But let me go back and hit that spot real quick. But I just want to show you, obviously, based on the color change, it's turning to straw colored right there. Some heat got into it, and that's okay. But man, that heat sink is warm. It's taking a lot of the heat. So, and that's good. That's heat that would have gone right into the part. So we'll leave that on there. Actually, I'm gonna go back, fill that up, then we'll leave it on there, and then once it's cool to the touch, we'll take it off and see how flat it stayed. All right, guys, I got it pulled off the fixture, and I did get a little bit of warpage there. You can see it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this part here, and take this side and put it over on the disc sander there and knock it flat. It's probably just a couple thou, but I'm going to do that real quick, and then I'll come back and show you what it looks like. All right, guys, just a light dusting on the disc sander, and it closed it up. One other thing I did that I'm going to take this off and show you. One other thing I did that helps sealing is, you see, I ran the pipe, focus you, please. I ran the pipe through the, all the way through the V-band. You see how it sticks out right there? And what that does is it ensures a good seal. So it gives, so now there's basically a channel in there for this side to fit. So if you do that, I mean, now you've just got a great seal. You can see the pipe coming through on the top side of this V-band, and it just makes an extra step or an extra seal in there. So those things together pretty much ensure a leak-free V-band. All right, guys, that wraps it up. Overall, my impressions of the Evil Energy V-band clamps are pretty good. I'm very happy with them, and the last impression I had, or last bit of information I had to share, that is when I was welding this, the base material, whatever they made, the mild steel, whatever that turned out to be, whatever grade it is of mild steel, is very good. Super weldable, very clean. There wasn't a bunch of junk in it. When I got it hot with the TIG torch, it didn't off-gas a bunch of garbage and stuff like that. It worked out really well. It welded very well. So overall, it's a thumbs up type deal. And if I'm gonna run V-band clamps in the future, they're probably gonna be Evil Energy, just because at this point they're known and trusted. I'll drop a link in the description below, so click on that if you like. And also check out their other stuff. I'll drop a link to their website. They got a bunch of pretty neat stuff. So check that out, and thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.